A lot of us have been raised in dysfunction. Therapy does no good for anybody unless they know what to go in there and start talking about.
For the people that abused me in my past, let me know I'm worthy now. But I felt like it's too late because when I needed it, I didn't get it.
There's no shaming here. There's no such thing as perfection. My name is Danielle Yaden. CARC stands for Certified Addiction and Recovery Coach. Also,
Hi, my name is Sheia. I'm a mother of three, and I live in Buffalo, New York.
use your experience to inform your wisdom and not inflate your grief. That's what this is. And so if we started there, my next question would be, why or how do you justify speaking harshly about yourself?
I don't know. I just speak harshly. I think I speak harshly of myself because I know mentally I can do better. I can do more. And I feel like I put myself down to the point that I don't. Like, I can't. Like, when you were saying that you left the city and moved to another one to re-raise yourself, I did the same thing.
When I was 22, I had just had my first child, and I'd had enough of the verbal abuse. It was a diatribe, actually. And so I moved to a whole nother city, and without knowing, like presently in my mind, I did that so I could go re-raise myself and listen to my own thoughts. And I had to go re-raise myself, and that was like the beginning. It was my attempt at healing myself.
I was in Georgia on and off for 8 years. I went there twice, and that's when I had my peace. That's when I was happy. Nobody knew me. Nobody knew my background. Nobody knew my story. It made me happy. And then I came back. Then I left again because I came back here. I'm like, I'm back at square one. I felt like I felt I could fight my demons, and maybe if I make peace where I live, I can go be more happy in Georgia, and and live. And then I went there and I did the same thing all over again. And I came back this time. When I came back to Buffalo, I came back stronger than I was when I left. However, I just feel like this city is depressing. So I don't know exactly where I went wrong in life, mentally, physically, or emotionally.
Why would you call it going wrong, and why do you think
Going
that's your
wrong
fault?
because when I reflect on my past, it's something that I could have grew from. It's something that now, I'm not gonna say I will ever get over it, but it was a learning experience, and I just always feel like everything in life is a lesson learned. Once you go through that lesson and you learn it, you move forward and you become more successful. But instead of me moving forward and becoming more successful, I allowed myself to drown in it, and I kept myself there in that very bad place because I
What were
didn't
you
have the
drowning in?
advocacy, pity, not feeling wanted. Like I said, I never felt like I've been seen. I never felt like I've been heard. And what I wanted, I didn't receive. And I just felt like, as a kid, you deserve way more in life.
Yes.
And trying not to cry. I'm sorry.
Uh,
I don't know. I just don't feel like I got that love I was supposed to have from both
You
my parents.
didn't. You didn't.
And
And that,
I feel like that's where I drown myself at because that little girl inside of me right now, to be the age that I am, I should have been over it. But that little girl inside of me always yearned for that love still. I can say I
you
got there with my mom, and I'm still working on it with my father, but I don't feel like I'm completely there. Because I feel like I forgave them, but I feel like deep down inside, I don't think I did. Because I
well,
don't know how
let's
to.
do you beat yourself up for not forgiving them?
No, I think I beat myself up more for not making them listen to me more. I beat
See,
myself
and
up
that's
for letting it get swept up under the rug. Besides
yeah.
my mother, we did have a conversation, and she brought it to me because she started seeing a change in me. And I was already an adult. I was already a mother of three. I was 28 years old at the time. She came to me because she realized every time she called my phone, I had an attitude. And I called her by her government name. I didn't call her mom.
Good for
So,
you. That's
yeah,
good.
so,
Like you were treating the situation with what it was instead of the fantasy of what you wished
yeah.
it could be. So being very practical as that is to call your mother by her government name is
Mm-hmm.
something that I give you a lot of credit for, because that's a way of kind of leveling the playing field. Because a lot of us have a real problem with knowing exactly what kind of place our mothers have in our life. A lot of us love to glorify our mothers and put them up on a pedestal, which also means that they do not have to be held accountable for any of the abuse that they, oppressed you with.
Oh no,
And
I hold her
mother,
accountable for a lot. She will tell you that.
good, good.
That's conversations we had spoke about. But
So that's not your issue. That's good. That's
no,
very
see, with my
good.
mom, that's why I said I felt like I forgave her. It don't bother me talking about my mother's situation like it used to back in the past. Because if you would hear the hurt, you'll see I'll start crying. Now I can talk about it, and like how we're talking about it now, and people are like, yo, you're a very strong woman. You don't even understand it. And I'm like, well, I don't feel like it, but yeah, I came over it. It doesn't hurt as bad. So I just went to her and I told her, I said, just tell me your truth. I have no choice but to accept your truth. Whether I like it or not, it's your truth. She had to live it. It was her life, whether it was right or wrong. And she did. I couldn't believe half the things she told me. But at the end of the day, it was her truth and I had to accept it. And
Did it
I
make
just let her
sense to
know.
you?
It didn't make sense at all to me, but it made sense to her.
Did what you went through and what she went through make sense? Like as
No,
far as, oh, okay.
no.
So for instance, give me one
Like,
example.
well, when I was 15, her ex boyfriend molested me,
Yes.
and I was told she was stuck in a love triangle. At 15, I know two things: your kid come first, especially in a time of need, and I
That's
never knew your children could be stuck in a love triangle. I thought a love triangle was between probably her and another man and her at the top. But when she was explaining it to me, I just knew better. But it made
So
sense to her.
so if I'm getting this right,
She chose him.
She included you in the love triangle
Mm-hmm.
between you, her, and him.
Yeah.
That would be role distortion.
My mother didn't love herself, and the truth hurt
Exactly.
her when you spoke it to her. She will. As soon as you start saying something she don't like, and she knows the honest to God truth, she will cut you off. She'll
Hmm.
become argumentative and everything.
She didn't even have the mental capacity to identify or, you know, empathize with what you're going through. It's the disconnect is real. Like you cannot
It
ask.
definitely was.
It still
I can say
is.
during that time, I hated my mom. And
with
I never
with
thought I
good
could, because I wanted her to
with
love me. I wanted her love. I wanted to love her. I wanted her to love me as much as I loved her. And I just felt
so
like right there, that was where our most disconnect came from our relationship. And that's when she
that
went from mom to her government name.
so right, and that's very fair. I love that
Yeah.
about you, because you are not being held in the imprisonment of a fantasy, which a lot of people are. They keep on rewounding themselves into believing that they can get something from a dry well when there was nothing to be gotten in the first place. One of the best ways to know if somebody's at all capable of, you know, knowing where they went wrong is asking them if they can provide the things that you would like them to provide for you, if they could provide it for themselves. Like if you asked your mom to find something good about herself, that would be way better than for you to ask her to say something nice about you.
Years back, I would believe that. But now, my mother could probably say more nice things about me than she can still about herself.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say she put me on a pedestal. That's what I said. That's what I meant when I said our relationship got way better. Like when we had that conversation, because it was her truth and I had no choice but to accept it. But um, she praised me a lot. I put myself down more than she do. You know, so I don't, that abuse with my mom is no longer there, and I feel like she tried to, mend that relationship that we should have had from the beginning till now. That could have been way greater than what it is, and I feel like I sometimes still pull back, and that's why I stated to you that I don't think I really forgave her. I think I just swept it up on the rug, but it doesn't hurt to talk about it like it did in my past, because it's my
Well,
story to tell. And if I can help anyone else out in regards to that story, I would like for it to be known. And plus, I'm at peace with it now.
how much slack do you give yourself for, not being able to forgive her as you think she needs to be forgiven? Because forgiving is a process, and I don't even think it goes to your healing. So how could you possibly forgive something if you haven't even healed all the way? Does that make sense? Like, if you
Yeah,
have not healed all the way to yourself, why then are you requiring of yourself to heal somebody?
I don't know. I think the reason why I never really fully healed from it is because my mom is not healed from her past. And I feel like, I'm not saying it's my job, but if I
No.
can find myself in the midst of it, then I can help her find hers. So she will
And
stop. Because it's just, like I said, it's a cycle. Even though I still beat myself up for things that I do in my life, or for not being accomplished the way I want to be, I feel like my mom does the same thing. And I feel like she, give me the encouragement and tell me how well of a mother I am and how I'm doing an awesome job, or how much I grew from a lot of things, from, as a mom looking at their child growing up. You went through a lot, baby girl. Now look at you. You're a grown woman and you're standing on your own feet, 2 feet. But I just feel like she needed in return, and I think it's a cycle. Like, it starts with her mom. I don't think that she's receiving it, because I can say whatever I want, but I think who she really needs to hear from is her mother, and they're not there. Like, they're here living, but they're not there relationship wise, like how me and she is right now, me and my mother. Like, so,
yes.
and I just try to, talk to my mom and try to give her pointers. I did it with you. Like, you could do it with her. Shouldn't have to affect anything. Just let her know how she feel, and let her tell you her truth, whether you like it or not. I didn't like a lot of things she said, but it was her truth and it was her story. I felt like
Has it?
it was her cry out for help, and she didn't know how to ask for it because she didn't have no advocacy. So she had to
Right.
learn it on her own, and then it became a cycle. Then, because it happened to my grandma, then it happened to my mother, and now it started happening with me. So
How was your relationship with your grandmother?
um, we got our ups and downs, but I'm more closer to my grandmother than I ever was my mom. But me and my mom is like this.
As
But me and my grandma's like this. So, like,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
my grandma, she
yes.
raised me. So for
You would
from
be close.
yeah, so I had that relationship. I felt like my mom was my big sister and I was the baby sister. That's how
Right.
close my
That's
grandma
the
was.
role
So yeah,
distortion. Yeah. That's a role distortion. That's all.
yeah,
That's akin to a grown person trying to nurse off of a baby's teat. Do you see how that made you cringe just thinking of that? That's the same thing when a grown person goes to the child to fulfill their needs. It should make everybody cringe the same way. And that's why it's very unhealthy to go to children to meet your needs.
right.
It should. I would not put a whole lot of pressure on yourself to forgive anybody until you've done your inner healing. And that comes
That's
first
great.
by
You said
honoring the
that.
real pain. You have to honor that pain and give it time. Um, give yourself the time and space to develop, because your personal development was stunted. Do not put any standards or expectations on yourself about where you should be right now. There's no such thing as should and must. There is no such thing. Based on the circumstances that you grew up under, I would love for you to give yourself credit for exactly how far you've been with the very little tools that you had to get there to begin with.
That I tell everybody that I don't think I will ever get over it until I learn how to forgive myself. I can forgive everybody that had any, title into it. But until I learn how to tell myself, Sheia, I forgive you, it's not your fault. I can say it a million times, but I don't mean it to myself. So I have to find that inner strength to figure out how to, forgive myself and to know that what happened to me in my past was never my fault.
The way you emotionally um, digest it is starting with the inner child work. And for instance, let me give you something. I was 3 years old, and you have children. You know what a 3-year-old is capable of. Would you ask them to go in your room and clean it up? Or would you ask them to go in their room and clean it up, being that they've never done it before? No, of course not. But it happened to me. My mom told me to go in my room, my tiny little self, and go clean up my room. The best way that I thought I could clean up my room was put all my little stuffed animals in a row. And I went back out and I said, Mommy, I'm done. And she looked in the room and she said, No, not like this. This is not how you clean up a room. So before I even, got into this life, she totally killed my morale and my thought process on how she made cleaning a room an insurmountable task, because she killed all of my morale at a tiny age. I was in my 40s, like I'm 45, and it wasn't until this year that I was able to go in and clean my room in an organized, timely fashion, instead of looking at the mess and just becoming immediately overwhelmed and confused and helpless as to how to tackle this task. Because
I know that.
little did I know that my whole mindset for cleaning up a room was killed at a very young age. So that's why I say, give yourself the time and the space to unwind what's going. It is no wonder you are beating yourself up, because you've been constantly beat up. That was the standard by which you measured all of your experiences, was if I wasn't beat up, then it's not real. If I'm not being beat up in this situation, something is amiss.
So
We need to.
became my reality.
Exactly. That is it. We need to skirt and erase that reality at this point. That's one of the first tasks that you have, is knowing that yes, it's not your fault, but beating yourself up can also be replaced with loving yourself, because love is not something that we actually need from somebody else. That's why I say, as parents, it's our job to heal ourselves with, through, and for our children, because guess what? You came up with that love to provide for them. Even though you didn't get it, that's called magic. You are doing the best you can with nothing. So imagine what you've done for them. That's magic. Materializing something that you did not have before, that's magic. Give yourself that. You see? You don't need it to begin with. We know we can pull it out of somewhere. That's real. That is so real. It can be pulled out. We know. That intuition is so real. That's what informs us on how to give what's best for our children. I use my children to heal myself, to at least start myself on the journey. I had a little bit of something. I was micromanaged as a child. That's how my freedom was violated. I couldn't even make the smallest decisions for myself without being chastised. Can you imagine that? Somebody's telling you how to eat your food? If I want to eat up all my mashed potatoes all at once, before I eat up my meat. What's so wrong with that?
One thing I was never taught, like you said, was love. I never knew how to love.
Right.
Even though I had a child and I love my children to death, I never showed them emotions.
Right.
Like my son, I used to call him emotionalist because he would get in trouble. He wouldn't cry. He never showed any anger. Like he never just had an outburst of scream or nothing.
That was his
You know.
way of trying to claim emotional stability.
And I feel
You
like
know,
even with my daughter, I'm like, oh, come here, give me a hug. And she's like, Mom, you never, we was never like this. Like, we don't like hugs. So, and then, like, sometimes that kind of killed my soul, too. And I think that's why I beat myself up a lot, too. Because even though I wasn't shown that, I felt like now my kids missed out on something they could have had.
they haven't missed out as long as you're still here.
Yeah,
There's no shame in
they're
what you
already
can't
stuck in their ways.
change.
My kids is 19, one about to be 18 in 2 months, and then I have a 14-year-old. They're stuck in their ways.
Well, you've got to give them more credit than that because I've had to change. I changed with getting the tools I needed to help heal myself and treating myself the way that I would want somebody to treat that little child that I am.
Yeah.
Have don't you know how precious you are? Treat yourself as if you're that precious little 6-year-old that's the tool. That's one of them to start cleaning up cleaning up the mess that was your childhood. That was my childhood. It was a total and complete mess. I felt isolated. I felt unseen and unheard. One of the hallmarks of an abused child is to try to stay unseen and unheard just to avoid any extra criticism or punishment or negative attention. They'd rather get no attention.
Right.
That was that
And
was how I expressed.
that's how I was in the beginning. Then I had to break out of it. I was like, I can't do this. Like I used to sit there and I get yelled at, and I just took it sometimes because I didn't know if I said something would I get in more trouble, or should I not tell on that person because then they're gonna be like, oh, you shouldn't say nothing. Like my aunt was abusive to me. My aunt used to get mad when I wouldn't want to I didn't want to babysit, and my mother always told me if I didn't want to do it, say no, and that's it. So one time she got so mad, my aunt used to buy me everything I wanted, shoes,
That's
clothes,
manipulation.
everything. Then it was, no, I don't want to babysit for you today. Oh, don't you come to me for no shoes on when you want your hair done and your nail. So I went to one time to my mom and I cried
Manipulation.
about it. Yeah, and I cried
Hmm.
about it, and then they got in a big argument about it. And then I just, I felt like, why would she say those harmful things to me? I would never do that. So when I grew up and her children was of age to watch my children, I never asked. Because at the end of the day, my children were mine, and it was my job to watch them. It was my job to babysit.
That
I watched
really,
y'all, I babysit y'all, I raised y'all. I didn't want nobody raising my children but myself.
that's the hallmark of an adult though. You have, despite everything that you've been through, your instincts have served you well because you are the one that stood and bore the load of your own. You bore your own load. That's a hallmark of an adult.
Yeah, I think
People
that's
who
why I beat myself up bad. Because it seemed like my whole entire life I've been doing that.
bearing your own load or somebody
Bearing
else's
my
load.
own load, everybody else's load. It seemed like I was the one that everybody took. We used to call it at my job, your bag of shit. Excuse my language.
Hmm.
But that's when somebody else take theirs and just throw it here and leave it with me,
Right.
and then I have to deal with it. Then
No, you don't.
I always tell people, I talk to people a lot. I will say I counsel them. People
Hmm.
come to me for advice a lot. Even my mom to this day, she comes to me for advice. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm the one that make sure everybody have peace. I'm the one that I speak for my mother. I'm her voice when she feel like
Hmm.
she's not being heard. I'm my grandmother's voice when she feel like she's not being heard. I'm sisters. I'm cousins. I'm friends. I'm everybody's voice. And I remember saying to my cousin a long time ago, I'm there and I speak for everyone. And not once anyone spoke for me. Now, once that somebody said, you know what, something, any type of scenery or any drama or anything, I never heard somebody like, you know what, first of all, she had never said that, she never said this, she nothing. It was always, I would always do it, but I feel like nobody never did it for me. And then when
They
people
don't
come
have
back
it to
to
give.
me, yeah, when they come back to me like, oh, such and such said you said such, I'm like, so what did you say? Because you know I didn't say that. Oh, I tried to, you know what, I did say, but they said they wasn't listening. I don't want to hear it no more because now I'm mad because since when they don't listen to what you have to say, or since when you, if I fight, like, what do you mean? Nah, first of all, you should know that person better than that. So I fight for that person to understand the other person. But I feel like nobody never did that for me, and that weighs on me because everybody put their bag of BS on me,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
I'm dealing with their stuff, and that's another reason why I feel like I never cope with my own.
What is the narrative that runs around in your mind when somebody brings you their shit and you feel like you've got to take it? And what what do you tell yourself if you would consider not taking it?
I don't think I ever had a narrative.
What
See, when
kind of
people
person
come to
would
me
you
with
be
their
if you didn't
situation,
take it? If you refused it?
I wouldn't know because I never did it before. So I
And
get
why
tired of
haven't you
it.
done it?